If I was a man, I would be more confident. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That's a horrible statement to make, but to some degree it's the truth. If I was a man, I'd be found charming as a leader, and if I was a man, I wouldn't be scared to walk home at night. But the fact is, I'm not a man. I raise my voice, and I get called dramatic. I get unsolicited help from men on things that I know how to do better, and I get called irritating or annoying when leading a group. I have more rights today than ever before, so why am I still treated like I'm weaker? I walk with less confidence and less purpose than how I would if I was a man. Now I, like many of you probably, didn't actually realize the implications of modern sexism until just recently. One day in my high school, I took a test, and after, I was discussing with some of my guy friends how it went. I immediately started panicking, because they seemed so much more confident about their answers, which were much different than mine. So I thought I had done horribly on this test, until a few days later when we got the results back. Surprisingly, I got a much higher grade than any of them. This instance in my life made me reflect on why I'm so much less confident than men are, even in subjects and areas that I know I'm able to do. A study done at Cornell University shows these exact results, that men tend to overestimate their abilities, whereas women underestimate them. I am now realizing that ever since we're young, there are certain expectations that are pushed onto us as boys and girls, which make up our personalities. For example, I remember, when I was just as young as 8 years old, there were elders in my life commenting on my looks and body, as well as teaching me manners and how to act more ladylike, whereas the boys my age got the interesting conversations about their aspirations for their careers. These simple standards that I grew up with have heavily influenced my confidence, as well as my dreams in life. Don't you ever wonder what a difference it would make in all of our personalities if these simple standards didn't exist? But gender gaps don't only exist psychologically in these circumstances, but also in a macroeconomic context. For example, psychologist Gerard Hofstede created a framework to assess the differences between countries and cultures made up of 5 dimensions. Now, one of these 5 dimensions is about how masculine or feminine a country is. I'd like to ask you all a question. I want you to think of a country or two that has a large, innovative, manufacturing, and exporting economy. I'm sure you're thinking of a country like China or the US. But what if I ask you to think of a country that has strong and equitable growth, and equitable access to education, quality of life, and health? I can sense that you've probably changed your answers to a country like Sweden or Iceland. Now, China and the US are 2 prime examples of masculine countries, due to their harsh economy, where generally they prioritize money over the well-being of people. But this, of course, is a generalization, and by all means does not apply to every aspect of their economy. However, when compared to countries like Sweden, Iceland, and other Nordic countries we all know as the happiest places to live in, this seems to be the general trend. Because these Nordic countries have a feminine management regime in which equality is the leading factor of their growth and development, which seems to lack in countries like China and the US. Now, I think we can all see what this implies on how gender roles impact us as individuals, as well as extrapolated into a global context, how they impact us worldwide. I'd also like to mention another study done by a management consulting company called McKinsey. So they've done a study on the power of parity, and without going into excruciating detail, I can summarize the results by saying, through the use of economical measures, statistics, and comparisons, they have employed a full potential scenario in the labor market, which means basically that they've assumed that women would hold the same role as men in the labor market globally. They have theorized by doing this a contribution of $12 trillion added to the global growth and development prospects in the world. $12 trillion. To put this absurdly large number into perspective, let's take China, for example. The second largest economy in the world, GDP $17 trillion US dollars. So ending gender inequality worldwide in the labor force would almost contribute another China into the global growth and development prospects. Just imagine the types of improvements that we could make, only if we ended gender inequality. But what I'm trying to say is, it still exists, and it's not that simple to put behind us. It is actively hindering our personal and global growth and development. But I know what some of you might be thinking. You don't believe me. Because you're right, we've come such a long way from where we started, where women weren't even allowed to be educated. But I know that most of you do understand, because you have experienced or witnessed these situations firsthand, and you're ready to challenge the status quo. So with that, I urge you to amplify your voices together with mine, so we can foster the environment that we need, that appreciates our diversity, welcomes equality, and empowers each and every one of us, regardless of our many, many differences. Because we don't deserve to lose opportunities based on who we are. And I say this to you today, because I'm not a man, and it's time that I stop wishing I was one. Thank you.